Hello and welcome to Built on Air, a podcast and video series about all things Airtable. I'm your host, Zoe Vanderplu, and I'd like to thank our sponsor, OpenSide. Visit openside.com for products and services that will take your Airtable to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir, one word, all caps, for a one-time $20 credit off of any purchase. This episode, we welcome Khe Hy from Los Angeles, California. Khe is the creator of the blog and newsletter Rad Reads and contributing editor at Quartz. His current ventures in writing are a sharp left turn from his previous career on Wall Street. Tired of staring at spreadsheets all day, Khe decided to quit his job in finance to pursue his entrepreneurial itch. In the ensuing months, he began blogging about the hurdles he was facing, including his own self-doubt. Writing actually helped him find his calling, creating thoughtful content about facing uncertainty and living with intention. We discuss how Khe grows his audience and how apps like Airtable help him manage Rad Reads. Khe gives us a demo of his blog editorial calendar in Airtable, where he schedules posts and corrals all his ideas for new writing projects. Check out BuiltOnAir.com for more Built on Air episodes. And while you're at it, sign up for our mailing list to get weekly updates on all things Airtable. Of that.
It's funny. People always ask me as a blogger, they're like, and I write every week. I write multiple things a week for years. They're like, are you ever worried that you're not going to have something to write about? And there's two answers that bloggers usually give. The first is no, because you just, as a writer, you just start to see the world differently. Mm-hmm. And so if I ran out of ideas, I could find something we talked about today and write about it tomorrow.
Right.
But they can't touch that. The other thing is like every story idea I write down. And so I just collect like a magpie. I just collect these stories, and over time this is like this. I rarely go to it because I need a story idea, but I go to it to kind of recatalyze other story ideas and just to remind myself that this is what I was interested in. And so it basically starts as just like a very, I'm in grid view right now, and it's just like a list of stories. And so you see some of the columns are the name of the story, like the headline, the date it was entered, SEO keywords, little flags to see if they're done or in progress, just to like create some archive views. Probably the most important is the ranking system, which helps me like quickly kind of remember that like, hey, when I put this story in, I was like really into the idea. And then some tags that like help me sort, creativity, productivity, money, identity, things that you would talk about in a reflective blog. Some little flags on like, can I convert this into an Instagram post? Ignore the spit column. I also keep track of like, could this be visual, like as a video or something else? And then I have a link to like related place where I could technically, so if you click here, it will fire up like an outline in Evernote. I think eventually I'd like to have it just stay in Airtable, but like I still use Evernote as like kind of my notebook for like a lot of text.
Right.
And so this is like the basic grid view, and probably the most powerful thing that I've set up is just through a Zapier account. What email am I always in? And for me, like for creativity, it's like speed of capture.
Right.
And so I'm walking in the park, I'm like, oh, gotta send this idea in. And so I just put the name in the subject line, and then it will just populate. It will populate the grid. And so that's like my catch, like an easy catch thing. I really, for as many things as possible, I try to automate with email-based triggers, because like I'm always in email in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Yeah. It's what works for you. It's the easiest thing to
Exactly. And it's cross-platform for me. So this is like the grid view. I leave this page open on my desktop as I'm working, because I literally will have like 2 to 10 story ideas a day. So I leave this form open. Nothing's nothing too crazy, but it's just a really quick way to enter it in with like a little bit more meat behind it. And then, as I'm going along my day, I have different views to really help me work on this. So, I don't do a ton of SEO, but I always have a lens towards SEO. And so if you go in here, I've added in the second column are the SEO keywords that might link up to that story, and then the difficulty. And I just do it manually, but I use a tool called Ahrefs, and it's an SEO tool, and I'll just like approximate the keyword difficulty based on their report. So it helps me know that like if I'm like sitting down to do SEO, like this is what I should work on, right? Career freedom keywords. Title is, can the unbundled career work financially? And then it has a rank of 3. Ideally I want to work on things that are rank 4 or rank 5, but getting things to align on SEO is an extra constraint.
Right.
And then similarly, I like this one, which is what's good.
Great name for a view.
Which is basically, it's simple, but it's just rank ordered the stories. So, you could see on the dates that you have stories dating back from like June 20th, like it's from a body image thing that was in the podcast Dear Sugars. And then in my notes, I said, tied to this kind of concept that, a lot of people are like, once X happens, my life will begin. Like once I'm married, or once I get this promotion, or once like my body looks this way. And so that's just kind of like the crux, like the hook of that story. And so, that one probably has a link. Yep. So if you see here's the link to the podcast episode. And I think knowing myself, it's probably timestamped to the right place. And so, I don't have to go far to start writing. And so that's what's good. And I think I like newest too, which kind of inverts the it just kind of like you don't always want to write about the story that you came up with like 19 months ago. Like there's a reason why you didn't write about it 19 months later. And so this just gets me into like my very, very recent mind space.
Right. What are you excited about right now?
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, this is the view that I spend the most time on, because I do think that once something kind of pops out of the 6-month window, like there's we're too dynamic. So it's stale.
Yeah. So do you ever kind of take a look back at, what's good or stuff you've input and you're like, I'm not excited about that anymore. Like, why did I rank this so high? Or
Totally. And what I'll actually do in that case is I'll downrank them. Or I guess my hack is to like rank it to 1. Like I'll never write a story that's ranked as a 1. So they'll just kind of like all like, and I wonder like, you may not see a lot of 1s, but you'll definitely like see a lot of 2s. Oh yeah, some of them aren't even ranked. And then you'll see a bunch of 1s and like a lot. Like I won't do 2s, like Murray Andrew rituals. Like I don't even really remember what that meant at the time. So, but I guess, it was tagged as happiness. So maybe it's like, oh yeah, like there's probably some kind of satisfaction that comes, Marie Andrew, not Marie Kondo. I got them confused. Marie Andrew's the illustrator on Instagram. Oh, sorry. It's her creative rituals of doing a Instagram illustration every day. So that was the idea.
Right. But also it's kind of cool here too, where you kind of figured out the minimal amount of information you need to put in this to jog your memory, like you're like, wow, okay, that was, input here in July of 2018. I'm not
Yeah,
that excited about it. What was it? Oh,
totally,
now I remember,
totally,
without having to kind of, do a bunch of linking and, take a bunch of notes. You're like, just get it out of here, put it in, and
totally.
if I realize I'm excited about it later, I'll continue.
And I'm glad you brought that up because there's an extra, which I could probably do an even more powerful search, but the more tags that you're willing to add to something, it's almost an implicit sign of conviction, right? Because
Right.
so if one of these stories, like if you look at a 5, there's money and there's links there. So there's definitely like you'll see, you can almost like you have the heuristic yourself, like you're willing to put the work to add the metadata.
Mm-hmm.
So which is actually, I don't know if you're familiar with David Allen's like getting things done
Yeah, the
framework.
getting things done method.
That's the GTD. That's kind of one of the principles of GTD, right? Like the more metadata you add to something, the more important it is to you.
Right, because you're willing to actually take the time to
Exactly.
get that down out of your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I have this like not for blogging. I don't have a blog, but I keep like an Airtable list of interesting links and I
Mhm.
tag them. And I think I might steal your rank idea.
Yeah.
Because I kind of just have this list and it is kind of almost like a diary of whatever I was really excited about researching
Hmm.
or thinking about at the time.
Hmm.
But yeah, I like how just the star, the ranking field just really adds this like super simple kind of qualitative value to it, um, to help you figure out what's most important.
And this sounds like, this might sound weird, but I think you'll know this. Like, um, um, the fact that they're stars, like it could just be a number that's coded like range 1 to 5.
Right.
But there's something about the stars that like it really, like it's a visual cue. It's like like stars are like a positively affirmed shape. There's like the satisfaction of like dialing your mouse right, to the 3, to the 2, and like that whoosh, like the swoosh feeling.
No, I
Like
totally
that shit,
agree.
that stuff matters. Like,
It really does. You're right. And, the equivalent, right? And, like a Google Sheet spreadsheet would be giving it a number or like, something that's sort of not, but it's fun to
mhm,
interact with like a spreadsheet in this kind of special way. And I
totally.
something that, a few other people on the podcast have talked about is, Airtable kind of has this really great way of incorporating things like colors and stuff like that to
Hmm.
drive implicit value. So,
Totally.
like even with, if you did have a ton of tags that weren't super manageable, right? Even just you could color code them,
Hmm.
based on temperature of whatever hot topics you want to write about right now or something, and then it would be really easy for you to kind of see and look,
Hmm.
you know
Totally.
what's colored, what kind of are these categories, or
Hmm.
just there are a lot of kind of really subtle kind of interactions and things that Airtable's built in that makes you can just look at a spreadsheet like this and you have a
Yeah.
few views that filter things and stuff, but even just looking at all of the data in one place, you can still
Hmm.
kind of automatically see what to zoom in on at that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like the power of visual cues is very, very strong. And I
Mm.
think that's where like G Suite like falls on its face, but that it's not meant for that. So
Right. It's more of, businessy type solution.
exactly.
There's this, there is sort of this little weird kind of like pop of satisfaction and joy when you
Hmm.
interact, when you adjust your ranking or whatever. It's
Totally.
like weirdly satisfying for.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a separate sheet, but it's super powerful where it lets me do an X post analysis on my blog posts.
Cool.
And so every time I pub in WordPress, it will grab the link, grab the tags from WordPress, put them into Airtable, and then I have like I have two rankings. So it's like how good do I think how much effort did I put into the piece? and then how it was received, like basically traffic wise or sharing wise. And so then I can like calibrate like you would think. People who have blogged for a long time know that effort and virality are actually tend to be inversely correlated.
Right.
And so you see that at play, but you also see that, the things that you think your audience cares about are often not exactly what they care about. And like a very obvious one for me is that I write a ton about introspection, and like maybe 10 to 15% I'll write about like productivity. I don't love writing about productivity. Productivity, it's like it satisfies this like reptilian desire that we all have to like be better versions of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Productivity is always the most read,
Right. Which is also really interesting because, it is that thing where instead of, really wanting to introspect, you're like, I need this quick fix. Like, if only I find this, like, oh, the getting things done method, the bullet journal, like,
yeah.
and I mean, I click on that.
A faster computer.
So like, even though I'm like 90% of the stuff I read is just total garbage, rarely if ever have I read an article on productivity and really felt like I incorporated it into my life and it significantly changed but you always click for that like small percentage of things. This one will change. This is the missing one, right? Yeah, exactly. No, that's so true. It is this weird, like, perverse hamster wheel, like obsessing over like the concept of productivity instead of actually just being productive. Yeah. It's weird. Well, yeah, this is really cool. Thank you so much for showing us your editorial. My pleasure. And I think you have that. You have your personal CRM sort of template up on Airtable Universe. So we'll share that too with everyone. Cool. So they can check that out and follow you on Airtable Universe if they want to, see if you release anything else. But before we sign off, tell everyone where can they go to find you if they want to contact you or check out more of your work. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me and to let me kind of share my story. It basically all starts over at radreads.co, and it's rad. It's like my homage to like surf and skate culture. And there, I would encourage people to sign up for the newsletter, which, as we talked earlier, it's not just a newsletter. It's like a full essay, blurbs, like kind of link blogging. It's really special and something I take a lot of pride in. And then other than that, I'm pretty active on Instagram. So it's RadReads CO, all one word as the handle. And then my Twitter is my first name, KheMaridh, and it'll be easier to find that in the show notes. Yes, for sure. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Khe. I've had a great time chatting with you about, everything from, little stupid gold stars to, intense personal psychological fear and despair and everything in between. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to go sign up for your newsletter now. Awesome. Thanks, Zoe.